and welcome to the 19th episode of the Cantina Chatter podcast. In this episode, we conclude our two-part limited series, Why We Collect. In part one, my guests and I discussed how we got into collecting, the joy we have received from the hobby, how it has affected our lives, and what it has spurred us to do in terms of our websites, YouTube channels, and social media accounts. In part two, we will continue discussing why we collect. Sam, also known as Raptor Queen, is known for her artistic talents and her penchant for Jurassic Park and especially raptors. Sam, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here, featured on the channel.
So tell me a little bit about how your collecting interests began.
Okay, well, for as long as I can remember, I've always been into toys. I've always collected toys. And I guess that would go right back to sort of when Jurassic Park was released. I was too young at the time to see it at the movies. I would have been like 3, 4 years old. And I remember my dad coming back and he'd seen it with Mum. And he brought back the little kicking, slashing raptor for me.
Oh, nice.
And as soon as I had that toy, I was like, wow, this is cool. But in saying that, I don't remember many other Jurassic Park toys. Like, I don't remember seeing them at stores. I was probably too young. So I never had many. I never had like the big red Rex or anything. But my parents over the years sort of bought me quite a few safari dinosaurs, and I just was always into dinosaurs and toys, and it sort of just went from there. But it wasn't till I was older that I was able to be like, ooh, fill in the gaps with my collection and start to purchase the big toys that I wanted to, like the big Rexes and some of the other figures. So they were always there. But I guess that's how it sort of began. There was a point where I had a collection up until I was 12 or 13, and then I thought I went through that stage where I was too cool for my toys and kind of got rid of my childhood collection, and that was just a huge regret. And then I kind of got into My Little Ponies, because I also had ponies as a child. And so the dinosaurs went. I started collecting ponies for years and years. But then I wanted my dinosaurs back, maybe going back 2 or 3 years ago. So only recently have I got a huge collection back of Jurassic Park toys. So it was like sort of a full circle.
Oh, wow. So were you first interested in Jurassic Park, or did that start with dinosaurs, like generally just dinosaurs first?
Actually, Land Before Time and Jurassic Park probably would have got me into dinosaurs. But it's kind of like chicken and the egg. It's hard to tell, really.
The Land Before Time was the very first film I ever saw in the theater as a kid. I remember that.
Yeah, and I remember that being my first probably like movie, like home video. It was either that or The Lion King that I can fondly remember.
Yeah, I remember watching that movie over and over and over. I loved it.
And the Pizza Hut toys, I remember those. Definitely remember having a collection of those.
Yes, and I was actually in a pre-kindergarten when those came out. And I remember that everyone would take them to school and, oh, you have that one. I don't have that one. We would just all play together with our puppets. It was amazing.
Yeah, totally. I had all of them, and then they disappeared along the way, and I don't have any left. So I need to get that set back because, I love Land Before Time and love dinosaurs.
Of course. Who doesn't love dinosaurs, I always like to say.
Oh, yeah. If they don't, they're lying.
So at what point did you say, hey, I can start a collection based off of this? Was there a defining moment that happened, or was it kind of more of an organic thing that naturally occurred?
I think as a child, it was just more of an organic thing. I don't think I set out to say, well, no, I kind of did, because every time I'd go to the store, I'd be like, oh, Mum, Dad, can I have this figure? And I'd always sort of come back with something. But I think as an adult, I kind of decided once the My Little Pony thing sort of fizzled out, I went, no, Jurassic World was actually coming out. So that's not long ago at all, a couple years. And I went, no, I want to have all of the Jurassic Park toys that I never had, and I want to have a huge collection, and that's what I'm going to do. So I guess that was my defining moment as an adult, because then I'm working full time and I had funds to, buy what I wanted to buy. So yeah, I guess how that's happened. I think Jurassic World sort of sparked it up again. Like, it was always there, but I saw all the nostalgia flooded back, and I saw all the vintage toys, and I went, okay, I need to have them now.
Wonderful. Now, how has collecting affected other aspects of your life?
Well, I've got my Instagram. Obviously, I don't have a YouTube because I don't have a decent microphone or camera, but I would like to do that because I see other collectors like yourself doing reviews and things, and I think that would be awesome. But it's a big time constraint because I work full time. I'm an early childhood teacher, so I don't really have time for that. But I have time for my Instagram page. So I just post, little pictures here and there, and of course my artwork, it's heavily influenced, all the dinosaurs I draw. And I'm quite lucky that my fiance, he backs me 100%, and he thinks it's quite funny, but I think he enjoys it as well. Sometimes I'll be looking at a toy and he'll pick it up and ask questions about it and try and name the dinosaurs. So yeah, it's nice. And my family has always supported me too, like my parents. I think love the fact that I collect, and I know a lot of people can't say that about their family members and partners. It doesn't always work in your favor. Some people are like, well, it's just a waste of money. And so, yeah, I'm quite lucky.
Absolutely. Somebody that is compassionate and understanding and supportive is super important. And luckily, I'm in the same boat too. My husband is totally on board and cool with it. He has no interest in any of these things personally, but, he's glad that I enjoy it. So that's always super, super important.
Yeah, that's the same as Nick. He's not interested, but he tries to be supportive for me. So it's really nice. We are very, very blessed.
Definitely. And you mentioned your artwork, and your artwork is fascinating. I think that your eye for detail is it's one of a kind. It just seems like you have a really talented eye for bringing out all of these details that most artists might overlook. I mean, it's really quite amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I guess drawing, I've drawn for as long as I can remember. It's much like the love for dinosaurs. I don't really know when it began, but it just makes me happy when I'm drawing dinosaurs and animals in general. I just love it when I get the time.
Certainly. So is there any line that you are currently working on collecting or anything you're trying to finish up?
Right now I'm just trying to, I think, finish up with the main big dinosaurs, I guess, from the Kenner line. Like, I really, really need the repaint of the Utahraptor. So I'm on the hunt for that at the moment. And what else? I would love to finally buy a big command compound or something, because I've never had the play sets and I don't know where I would display them. But I've never had anything like that, so that would be great. And it's just little bits and pieces like the big ram head Pachycephalosaurus. I need him, and I need the little electronic Dilophosaurus. I've never had that one. So they're just a couple little gaps. Like, I'm not really a set completer. I don't need to have every single piece, and I don't really have many of the human figures, but that's my goal, just to sort of collect the main pieces. Yeah.
Nice. And yeah, I think that's super important is when you're collecting, prioritizing, because when you focus your collection more on specifics, it's a lot easier to manage, because if you're like me, you collect a little bit of everything. You have Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Batman, Marvel, so on and so forth. It becomes unmanageable really quickly. So being able to streamline it like that definitely makes things a lot easier.
Oh yeah, it would get overwhelming, and I guess that's why I mainly focus on Jurassic Park, because if I did much else, I could not afford it. I would go crazy, because I collected quite a few Dragon Ball Z, the figure arts, but as you know, they're very expensive, any sort of SH figure arts figures. But they're kind of on the back burner, and I've been selling a couple because I have my wedding coming up. So yeah, I just have to be very careful in what I sort of prioritize at the moment.
Well, Sam, is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners?
I just want to say that, just to anyone that's collecting and not sure about it, I just think as long as it's, impacting positively on your life and you're enjoying what you're doing and you're really loving doing it, just do it. If collecting makes you happy, just collect, and who cares what else anyone else really has to say. Yeah. And I guess you would agree, Vicky.
Oh, absolutely.
It is. It's just a lot of fun, and it's kind of unconventional. Like, I don't have any other friends that do this, so I'm known as, that dinosaur girl and that strange collector, but generally I'm sort of greeted with positivity with it. Lots of people, and I think, enjoy what I do, and that's great.
Well, hey, there are worse things to be known as.
Exactly. I could be smoking, doing drugs, and burning my money that way. So,
all right. Well, Sam, it has been a pleasure hearing from you. I encourage anyone listening to look you up on social media to see your excellent artwork and dinosaur collectibles.
Thank you so much, Vicky. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Clark Tanaka, also known as Super Collector Clark, is a more casual collector joining us on Why We Collect. He has previously collected Kenner Jurassic Park toys and other Jurassic Park items from 1993, Hasbro's Star Wars, Hot Wheels, Funko Pops, posters, and other DC Comics collectibles. Clark, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Victoria.
So, Clark, you're joining us from Japan, and our previous guest was from New Zealand, and before her in our last episode, we had Jurassic Collectibles, who is from the UK. So I'm glad that we are able to get different perspectives from people all around the world, and that Cantina Chatter podcast is a global program. So again, super cool that we can get your perspective today.
Yes, most definitely. I'm very honored to have been on to do this on your channel. It's and it's very cool that I'm here talking to you from Japan.
That's an honor to have you. So tell me a little bit about how you got into collecting toys.
Yeah, well, like you said, back in 1993, I watched Jurassic Park with my friend. I believe his name was Darren. He invited me to come watch the movie, and I totally fell in love with it. And right after watching the movie, I guess I went to watch it again with my parents, and I begged my parents, to buy all the cool merchandise and toys for the Jurassic Park franchise. And basically, I just bought everything with that JP logo on the items, and they had a whole bunch of stuff. So that's where I basically started collecting.
Awesome. So 1993 was in fact a big year for Jurassic Park. It was a year that it entered the public consciousness on a pop culture level. And a lot of product was made not only by Kenner, but also by other companies. So tell us a little bit about your memories from that time and the collectibles that you have acquired from that time period.
Right. Well, a little bit about the things that I did just a few weeks ago on my channel. I did about 4 videos of unboxing my whole collection that I collected back then. But I found a lot of interesting things, starting from magazines, tops, trading cards, Halloween masks, posters, pogs. There were so many things, candies, and I still have a few more things hidden in my closet, so I'm going to do a review on those also. But just a whole bunch of I was into music also, so a lot of they still had cassettes, so I had CDs and cassettes from the scores of John Williams.
Oh, nice.
So just a whole bunch of things other than toys I collected, definitely.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to 1993, and I remember the day that I saw Jurassic Park in the theater. It was myself, my father, my uncle, and my little brother, and we were excited because we had seen the commercials, and being little kids, I think I was 8 years old. We loved dinosaurs, and we knew that this movie was going to have some great looking dinosaurs from what we had seen, but I didn't really know what we were going to be in for exactly. And
Right.
it was just such an astounding movie. And, it truly
Mm-hmm.
inspired me to go and pursue the toys and the collectibles. And
Mm-hmm.
as I was telling Jurassic Collectibles in the previous episode of Why We Collect, it was the first toy that I had was the young T-Rex from the Kenner Jurassic Park line. That was the first
Right.
JP toy. And I still remember, clear as day being at the store Target and begging my mother to buy that for me and, saying, hey, I'll do all the chores you want if you buy me this toy.
Right.
And that, just really got me into, at that age, Jurassic Park. Because I had already been collecting dinosaur toys, but I didn't have anything as cool as what Kenner was doing back then. So, that got me into other toys like the Triceratops, the red T-Rex, the Stegosaurus, and all of which I still have to this day. So, even looking back, it was just such an amazing time for film, for music, as you noted, for toys, and I have a lot of nostalgia for that time period.
Right, definitely. Yeah, the thing you pointed out about not knowing what you were gonna actually see in the movies is the whole what's it the social network and the internet. We didn't have that back then, and all we could see is the commercials, like the trailers from the TV commercials, and it didn't really show that much, and I think that's what really added, because you really didn't know what you were gonna see. You just saw parts of very only few trailers from the TV, and that's all you got. So, but today, you can basically search for the all the trailers, and they put out a whole bunch of different trailers, and they even show parts from the movie before you even go to the theaters. So I think that kind of, for me, it kind of ruins it, but yeah, back then it was just TV, and so it really, really added, I think, to the whole movie theater experience.
Definitely. You didn't have
Yeah.
things like spoilers on Twitter or,
Right,
you know,
right.
yeah, it seems lately like a lot of the time we go into the movie and we already have seen a lot of the stuff that happens
Yeah,
because we've seen it
yeah,
on TV, we've seen it, from what we've heard, on social media and on YouTube. So it was definitely a different time. And, I think as far as like going into a film completely surprised, it was definitely a time where you could actually do that. And these days, if you're online, you're going to get exposed to all those things on some level.
definitely. It's actually harder not to get get spoilers, because
Right.
even though you're not searching for it, it kind of pops up, on the web, and you're like, oh no. Yeah, so I'm trying to avoid for the all these spoilers for the next Jurassic World movie. So that's that's one of the hard things to do. Trying to
Definitely.
avoid, trying to avoid these spoilers. Yeah.
And then a lot of the time, not just, I'm not saying specifically with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but especially with
Hmm.
Star Wars,
Right.
they've been doing the product launches, 3, 4 months in advance. And, that doesn't really help if you're trying to avoid.
Definitely the sneak peek, blinds, and you just they show all the characters, and so you basically know what characters are going to be in the movie. So yeah, you're right about that.
Definitely. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the other items that you collect?
Okay. Well, I've been a big casual but big DC Comics fan. Batman, Superman. Um, I don't know if I should be saying this, but my Japanese name is Shintaro, so which starts with an S. So I became a big Superman fan since it starts with an S.
Nice.
So that's one of the reason I became a DC Comics fan or a Superman fan, and that's where I got Clark, as Clark Kent,
Ah,
Superman being, so that's why I'm Clark Tanaka. That's
nice.
that's a little background story there. So I collect Not too many, but I do have some Batman, Michael Keaton Batman Hot Toys, and I have the original Christopher Reeve Hot Toys Superman.
Awesome.
And yeah, those are the two I have, and I have some on pre-order, like the Wonder Woman and the Flash from the Justice League line.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I actually have the Hot Toys Batman Returns Batman.
Yeah, that's the one I have. Yeah.
Nice. That was my favorite costume.
Yeah, definitely. That's my favorite movie also. I mean, I
Oh,
love
yeah.
the first one also, but Returns is also another great movie.
Yeah, I just finished rewatching all the old
Oh yeah,
older.
okay, okay.
And I still think the original 1989 Batman's the best, but I think Batman Returns is my favorite overall.
Oh yeah, definitely. They got to make the Catwoman and the Penguin. Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
I'm still waiting for those.
My husband recently, for my birthday in January, he got me the, I'm not sure if you've seen it, the NECA quarter scale Catwoman.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
he got me
that's cool.
that. It's a really cool collectible. It's tall, it's very big, but I agree. I mean, Hot Toys definitely needs to do their own version of Catwoman. I think that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah. I know they're gonna do it someday, but yeah, I'm waiting for that. Yeah.
So, Clark, you told me that you previously worked for Bandai. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did there?
Yes. Well, I don't know the exact title in English, but we were called producers. It's a strange name, I guess. That's the title you get when you are assigned to make a toy. What you do is you are in control of basically coming up with the idea itself and basically doing everything to the point of actually selling it at the stores. So you basically come up with the idea. We basically outsource everything from design and manufacturing everything. So we decide which company we want to outsource it to, and we talk, all the budget and stuff. We do all the advertisements, we do all the QC, everything, and on the day of the launch, we actually go to the store, which are usually on over the weekends, and we actually stand in front of the stores with the product, and we kind of shout out like the name, like the product, like we have the toy in our hands, and we actually I don't know if you saw these when you came to Japan, when you visited Japan, but many times we would stand in front of the stores and we would shout like really loud
yes.
the names of the toys that we're trying to sell, and we actually do that. So we get involved into the every step of the making of the toy and we get even involved in the selling. So we actually go to the stores and we try to sell as much as we can on the first day of the launch.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I did that for about 10 years. Yeah.
Wow. So, I remember being in Shibuya when actually I saw that happening. There were some girls on the loudspeakers, and they were.
Oh yeah. We did that. Yeah. So almost like every week. I mean, not only for the product that you are involved in, but also for the your coworkers and your colleagues that are involved. We usually help out to sell as much as we can.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a pretty interesting experience to go through.
Right. So it sounds a little bit like marketing and promotion.
Yeah.
So being in that position at Bandai, what differences do you see in the ways that Japanese toys are made and sold versus how they might be produced in the United States or in other places?
I think idea-wise, personally, I like the ideas and the functions and all the cool like I don't know, like the actual designs, like the package designs. I love the way the U.S. toys are made design wise. But in terms of the difference in like the quality control, I think there are some differences as to how we approach it, or maybe it's a cultural difference. But I think Japanese toys have I don't know if I should say higher, but a higher quality control is expected from the stores and from the customers. And what I mean by that is not just the toy itself, but everything that's surrounding it, which includes the packaging. We have a very high standard in quality control, whereas the packaging and even the shipper boxes, the brown shipper boxes, are considered part of the toy, so of the product, I should say. So if the shipper box is damaged or scratched or dented, it's considered a damaged item. I mean, not maybe 100%, but we use really thick, shipper boxing, and we do a whole bunch of drop tests. I don't know. We basically try to do everything we can to avoid damages to the product, and not
Wow.
only to the product but to the to the outside shipper boxes,
Wow.
which are usually just thrown out. So that's one of the main differences I kind of experienced. So I think it's good for the collectors that the items come pretty mint in condition. Not saying compared to the toys in the outside of Japan, but yeah, a lot of times I think the Japanese toys are come in better shape, I guess. Right out of the factory.
Wow. And that makes total sense to me, because I remember being in Japan, and presentation is a huge thing over there.
Yes.
Anytime we ordered a meal, it would come out looking picture perfect. Anytime we stepped into a store or a hotel, everything was laid out perfectly, like all the time. So, that definitely makes sense from what you're describing about how perfection was basically the goal with how the toys are
Right.
presented and sold to people. That definitely makes a lot of sense.
Right. Right. Yeah. Another thing I noticed is maybe you experienced this also, but when you buy a product, and when the cashier, or I don't know if that's what you call it, but the person that checks out the when after you pay it and they put it in the bag, even when they put it in the bag, they like do it really like slowly and nicely. Like they place the item in the bag like perfectly, so that it won't like bounce around when you're carrying it back home. um, yeah, so I'm not saying, in the States they handle stuff really rough or anything. I'm not,
Right,
don't
right.
get me wrong. Yeah, I'm not saying that, but I think one of the, yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. I don't know, but yeah, they really try to place they try to, yeah, perfect everything, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of strange in a way, but for a collector especially, I think it's a good thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely a good thing for
Yeah.
us collectors, because we're very picky.
Yeah.
We're probably some of the pickiest people out there.
Yeah, yeah, actually, yeah. Yeah. I am pretty picky when it comes to. I mean, I would rather buy. If I'm paying the same price, I would rather get a something in mint condition rather than something that's all beat up.
Oh, of
Um,
course.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and if I'm paying for a really high priced, like a statue, and if I get something, shipped from overseas, and if it arrives, really, um, you know, damaged, it kind of sucks. So,
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, having a good, uh, a product that's been tested to ship perfectly from overseas is a good thing, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Clark, it has been a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you again for taking the time to join me. And I hope that our listeners take some time to visit your channel and have a look at the terrific work that you do.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, thank you again for having me, and yeah, it'll be really great if yeah, your viewers, your fantastic viewers, visited my channel and watched some of my. I don't have that many right now, but I'm still doing a lot of Jurassic Park unboxing. I mean, collection unboxing from 1993. So yeah, so it should be interesting. So definitely, yeah, please visit my channel, and I hopefully you guys will enjoy the my channel. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
yeah, thank you very much.
Dan Kurtal is a veteran collector who in the Star Wars collecting world requires little introduction. He was a longtime web content manager for rebelscum.com, where he contributed Star Wars toy news as well as his photography talents to the vast treasure trove known as the Photo Archives. He is also co-author of The Ultimate Action Figure Collection by Steve Sansweet, and on top of that, also a podcast co-host with First Order Transmissions and a sketch card artist. Dan, am I missing anything from that list?
Good Lord, that's embarrassing. Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but that's fine. I'm actually doing a series of sketch cards now, like while we're chatting, so that's kind of fun.
Wonderful. So, well, first of all, thank you for being on the show. It's great to have you on.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be invited.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're very well versed in this whole collecting thing. You know a thing or two about Star Wars figures, and you spent so much time working on all of these projects. So can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of how Dan Kurtal got into collecting?
Oh, well, I was fortunate, I suppose, to be a kid when the first Star Wars movie came out in 1977, and I was floored. I had no idea what to expect, I mean, Star Wars, what is that? I don't even know. What's science fiction, I was a kid. I liked cartoons. But I really fell in love with the galaxy far, far away and the storyline, and wanted to get more knowledge about it. At the time, the only thing there was the comic books. And if you know, there were very large, what they called Treasury Edition comics, which is the full-size 11 by 17 books. And then the regular size comic books would come out, but they would come out like once a month or every other month, I think, back then.
Uh-huh.
But the Treasury book had all 3 issues, so it had the first half of the movie in it. So I was like, cool, I could read the whole first part. And I actually, side note, I'd learned to draw by tracing the Star Wars comics. So if you look at I still have it. If you look at the comic book, you'll see that there's like indented lines over all of the artwork because I would trace it as a kid. And then, obviously the following year, as the story goes, the action figures came out. And back then, the only thing to collect was the comic books, the trading cards from Topps, irony, and the action figures. I mean, there really wasn't a lot of merchandise to collect. And I didn't, as a kid, you don't think of yourself as a collector, right? You're just buying toys. You're making mommy buy me toys and dad get me this. And I had a few figures. My friend had a few figures. My other friend had a few figures. We started playing together, and we're like, you know what we should do? We should use this handy checklist here, and we should make your dad buy you the land speeder, and I'll make my mom buy me the Millennium Falcon, and then your dad will buy the Death Star. And between all of us, we coordinated our efforts. And we were like 9 years old, 10 years old, right? We coordinated our efforts, and we had the whole collection. at the time, it wasn't much, but we had all the figures, we had the vehicles, the play sets, everything. So when we got together, and we would mix too. We'd bring in some of our Battlestar Galactica characters and our Buck Rogers and some of our superheroes because they were small at the time. We didn't really care. Everybody shows up at the Cantina, right?
That's awesome.
Now, fast forward a couple years, movies are coming out. We have lots of toys. We still kind of did this. And my friends are now, I'm not so into the toys anymore. Do you want them? Yes, I do. So I ended up with all of those toys that as a child I played with and even my friends played with. And if you look at like the feet of the stormtroopers, for example, there would be initials on the feet as whose it was. So when we played, you know, we knew, okay, this has got a D, that's Dan's, a T, that's Timmy's, a J, that's Jay's. And I still have those. So that was my initial foray into collecting. I was coordinating efforts with my friends even at 10 years old.
That's pretty remarkable. So, Dan, you worked for Rebel Scum for a long time, and I remember reading your stuff and studying your photo archives going back to at least 2002. I think Rebel Scum was like the first Star Wars collecting site I followed very closely back then. So what do you remember most fondly about your time at Rebel Scum?
Oh my gosh, there were so many. That was a really great hobby that I had that turned into a job, that turned back into a hobby, and then became a kind of a pain in the ass. So, but my most fond memory of working on the site was actually going to the different conventions and meeting different people and stuff. I mean, it sounds sort of cliche, but I enjoyed that part of the job, and going to like Japan and London and Dallas and Orlando and LA. I mean, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but this is what I did. And I got to meet like people from all the different companies, you know, work with them. I actually helped not create. I mean, I'm not saying that I worked with them, but I partnered with Hasbro on a few figures in the toy line, which was super fun. Got to know people at Topps, obviously. That worked out pretty well. Got to know people at Dark Horse, Gentle Giant, etc., etc. I mean, it was fun, and being able to like get that information and then present it to people, going to toy fairs. I just really enjoyed doing that. It's completely different now because back when I started going to like toy fair and stuff like that, you'd have to interview, get all the information from the representatives, take the pictures that you want to take, run back to your hotel if they have Wi-Fi. If they don't, you have to go to like a Kinko's or something to get online, and then you have to edit your pictures, write your story, you know, and you're kind of like Celebration 3. I ran the coverage from the site on an ironing board in the corner of the hotel room because you had to plug in, and we had a 6-foot cable.
Oh, wow.
So I set the ironing. So it's really a glamorous life, let me tell you. But nowadays, it's so bizarre because anybody could just stand in the middle of New York City and stream video from their phone.
Right.
So I sound like an old man, but, well, I kind of am. But, I mean, it's completely different now. It's fascinating to see how it's changed. I mean, I'm not really part of it anymore, but I still follow it, and I still see, like, you know, people like Jedi Temple Archives are doing, or Yak Face are doing, or even I check Rebel Scum from time to time around these events and see what's happening. But I'm kind of glad I'm not out there doing it. Like, Toy Fair's coming up next weekend, right? And I'm glad I'm in New York City in February anymore.
Yeah, crazy times. I mean, the only conventions that I've done are, well, San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes.
And Star Wars Celebration, of course. But yeah, Comic-Con is always pretty crazy, of course. Luckily, I live here in San Diego, so it's not a journey or anything for me. But you know, you still deal with the hordes of people that are, you know, being packed into these exhibit halls, and
it's crazy. The first time I went to San Diego, I'm trying to think, it was the first or second. The second time I went to San Diego, well, I've only been twice to San Diego Comic-Con, and the first time I went there, I ran into some of my friends who were working for DC Comics as an artist. And he says to me, you know, I can't wait to come home from Comic-Con to find out what happened at Comic-Con. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, what? And then 2 days later, I knew exactly what he was talking about. There's a part of me. I used to say this on our other show. There's a part of me that comes alive at a convention that just doesn't exist in my normal world. And it's like the Super Bowl for toy collectors, you know? And it's just, it's a lot of fun. And being a part of the show, which is strange to say, I've been on both sides of the table now. I've been a guest, and I've been a reporter, and I've been a photographer. I've been all different kinds of things. I actually prefer being the reporter. Thankfully, I just stick to some of the local shows around here these days, and it's still fun. It's still fun.
Absolutely. I mean, collecting. There's so many of us that will complain. We'll be like, well, why aren't they doing this? Or why are they doing this? Why don't they see after all these years that you can't distribute like this? But I mean, like you said, at the end of the day, it's all about collecting toys, and it's really important not to lose sight of that. We all do it because it's fun. And
right. I mean, the line itself, if you're looking at the Hasbro toy line, we were talking about the action figures before. It's definitely evolved considerably over time. About around 2012, it took a big reverse step backwards. With in terms of articulation and just remember when the packaging shrunk, which was so bizarre. But I still collected them. I don't think I have every single variation anymore, but I still try to keep up with some of the stuff. Mostly I wait for clearance sales these days because I'm paying for everything out of my own pocket again, which is fine. But I also find I'm not as into it as I was. So if you think back to like 2006 through 2012, when you had the Saga collection, Legacy collection, Vintage, obviously the Vintage collection, 30th anniversary collection. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was such an improvement over the years as the line got better and better with articulation and accessories and soft goods and all that stuff. Chances were taken on like the big Millennium Falcon, the AT-AT, the clone turbo tank. I mean, lots of cool stuff they were able to really take chances on. Then in 2012, everything changed.
Right.
So now there's new owners. Now they have to cut back. Now there's a new movie every year. They really can't afford to put all their money into one big product and have it go the entire year because they have to keep refreshing it, like I said earlier. Mm-hmm. So it's a hard balance, I think, that these guys are facing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably the most adverse thing affecting the entire line is, I mean, it's great to get a Star Wars movie every year on the principle of that, as a Star Wars fan, I love that. I love seeing a new movie every year. But if you're a toy collector, I just don't feel like they're really giving any of these lines really any breathing room because they have to focus on Force Awakens, and it's Rogue One, then it's The Last Jedi, then 6 months later Han Solo, and now they're announcing all these other films and TV series are going to be coming out. So unfortunately, I don't really think that's going to ever be as great as it was back during the golden years. No. But I mean, it's really tough. I mean, I love the movies, but I mean, I also love collecting the figures and love collecting the product, but I just don't see that it's ever going to be as grand as it once was.
No, and it's funny. I mean, the golden years you mentioned before, that's around the time I was just talking about. Like 2006 through about 2012 is when they really were doing a lot of stuff. There were no movies then.
Yeah.
There was the Clone Wars animated series, and that was it. There was talk of a live-action TV series. That never happened. There's always talk about a sequel trilogy, and they were like, yeah, okay, yeah, that I've heard that before. April Fool's, ha. And then all of a sudden, there is one. Wait a minute. But that's the time where they're like, we're not really promoting a film, so we can pretty much do what we want. Mm-hmm. And we can keep a line going for multiple years. And I think that's what really, I mean, especially they brought in the vintage collection with those classic, Kenner-style card backs. That really strikes a chord with a lot of long-term fans. And Hasbro is very, very aware of that, which is why they retired it for a while, and now, hopefully, they're going to have some success bringing it back.
Uh-huh.
We'll see, because the first wave is like all repacks, which I always question the wisdom of that.
Okay, so co-authoring the Ultimate Action Figure Collection with Steve Sansweet, I mean, that just sounds like an amazing project. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So it was about late summer, early fall 2011. I got a phone call from Steve, because I've known him for years, and he told me about this project. He goes, Dan, I need your help on something. I'm like, okay, what's up? And he tells me about this book that he's working on. And I said, Steve, I would be offended if you asked anybody else. So we started talking about what he wanted to be. And what we were doing was what I termed, I don't know if anybody else terms it this way, but an alpha chronological order of every Star Wars figure that was created from 1978 through, well, at the time, 2011, and then we added some 2012 stuff. And then present them. And we had lots of discussions over what is a new figure? What is a new release? Because sometimes they take the same figure and they give different accessories to it. Sometimes they take the same figure and they paint them a little bit of it, like Clone Troopers. I mean, good Lord. It's the same damn figure, but it has different paint on it. But what constitutes a figure? Why are some droids figures and some droids accessories? Or, in some cases, vehicles, because they're so large. They're not really a vehicle, it's a droid. But it was so nerdy, let me tell you. We went back and forth, and I think initially came up with a list that was probably over 5,000 figures.
Oh, gosh.
And he said, okay, nope, we can't count this, we can't count that, we can't... And went back and forth, and I think at the end of the day, it was just over 2,600. Then, once we finalized the list, another interesting thing, we had ruled out Jabba the Hutt, because he's a character for sure, but he's more of a creature, okay? But the way he's been sold, he's been part of a beast collection with like a dewback and a wampa and a tauntaun, because he's so large. I said, but he's really a character, okay? And we said, let's not count him. Then late in the game, the publisher says, no, we want to put Jabba in there. I said, Steve, I told you. So we put Jabba in towards the end. As we're going through these, we wanted to get photos of everything and every variation. Now, I have a very extensive collection, but I don't have everything. Steve has probably everything, but he can't find it all. And Ann was helping him with that. Anyway, we're looking online. He says, I'm looking at this website, Jedi Temple Archives. They have pretty good pictures of some of the stuff that we're missing. Do you think we'll be able to use them? So I said, hold on a second. Get my phone. I text Paul. It says, hey, Paul, would you be interested in this project? I can't tell you what it is yet, but I'll, if you're into it, then I'll tell you what it is. He goes, I'm so confused, but yes, I'm into it. I'm like, all right. So Steve goes, oh, you know Paul? I'm like, yes, I know Paul really well. So that's how we got the gang together, and the four of us, Steve and Paul and myself, spent most of the first 3 months of 2012 compiling data, compiling captions and photos and just whatever, trying to consolidate everything. When we got the printed version, the first draft of the book on the large 11 by 17 pages, we had 3 days to look through everything and see if there were any mistakes. And I'm like, oh my God, really? 3 days? That's it? So Paul writes back and he says, I've got 5 pages of edits. And Steve goes, let's go this in there. I'm like, hold on a second, guys. I'm on page 31. And they're like, what? I'm like, it's minor, nerdy stuff, but I mean, we're calling this the Ultimate Action Figure Guide. We should be right. and yeah, so I took it to that level. I don't think all of those changes were in the book because of the timing of it. And I know for a fact that there are some stuff that we got wrong. Some of the pictures were off. That's okay. I mean, we could fix it in an updated version, I suppose. And then we saw, oh, good Lord. I didn't see the card back gallery until the book was published. And then I said, this is wrong! But whatever. That's neither here nor there. Working on that book, I think I said this before, that was like the pinnacle of my action figure archiving career at Rebel Scum, because it was a compilation of everything that I had done.
Uh-huh.
I mean, to the rest of the world, this is not a big deal. Nobody cares. But to Star Wars fans and collectors, this was something that was a real labor of love. It was for all of us. It was a passion project. A lot of work. Definitely don't want to do it again, but also I can't wait to do it again.
That's awesome.
The cover, those are my figures.
Oh.
I mailed 200 of my own personal collection to the publisher so they could arrange them in that photograph, and they did it in such a way. So some of the figures you'll notice are old and played with, and maybe even have an initial on their feet. But those are the figures that from my personal collection, so that they could do that shot. And I just, that gives me so much nerd cred, right?
That's pretty darn awesome.
and I have them all sitting, you can't see, they're all sitting behind me in these clear plastic totes, all organized by whatever line they were released in. So if I ever need to drag them out for whatever reason, and I don't do it that much these days, I could find my Power of the Jedi, I could find my Saga collection, my 30th anniversary collection, my comic packs, they're all together.
Nice. I think I should organize mine that way too. I kind of have them organized by character, and then sometimes, it's like, okay, well, now that there's a new version of this character, I got to dig out, that little container wherever they are and get this guy in there.
I have one at work, so sometimes I'll use that if at my regular job, which is not at all fun. But I'll bring that out sometimes. I was like, I wrote a book on Star Wars figures. They're like, what? I'm like, well, I co-wrote a book on Star Wars.
That's awesome. So, Dan, on your IMDb page, I noticed a short film that you are a part of. It's called Star Wars, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Scramble on Yularen?
You just blew my mind. I have an IMDb page.
Oh, yeah, well, you do.
I was not aware of that, no.
Oh, wow.
There is, yes, I am in a Star Wars movie.
That's really cool. And it says you portray Captain Fluvius Bernac. Is that how you say it?
I didn't know he had a first name. How do you like that? Captain Bernac. Yes. So the story, this is funny. I didn't know you were going to bring this up. So another title to add to the credits, I suppose.
Actor.
Actor. Well, bad actor, let me tell you. So two of my coworkers, one of them has a film company. He does it on the side, and the other one, they're all big Star Wars fans. I work in a computer training company, so yeah, we're all a bunch of nerds. Shocking. Well, they put together a script for a Star Wars fan film, and one of the guys had done some Indiana Jones fan films years ago, and now he's like, I really want to do something Star Wars. So they approached me last Christmas at the Christmas party, and they said, would you be interested? And I just looked at him and laughed. Like, would I be interested? Okay, what do you want me to do? And then they told me about it. It's like, we really would like your advice and opinions on this. So I gave them some thoughts about, some of the characters, what they would do. No idea what really the story was about. And then I told them, it's like, I want to be in it. I'm like, what do you mean you want to be? I want to play a character. I don't know what I would do. I could wear a mask. I'll be a Gamorrean guard or something. I'm a big fat guy. I could pull that off. Well, they made me an Imperial commander, and I get to have a hopefully memorable showdown with a certain Sith Lord.
Huh.
Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but it doesn't go well for me. It was really funny because yes, okay, we're going to make you this character. It's a very small part. Don't get me wrong. It's not. I have nothing to do with the overall plot. But one of the characters in the film, his story advances because of me. Let's put it that way. Which is good for him, not so good for me. But they didn't have a Darth Vader. They go, do you know anybody who has a Darth Vader costume? And I just laughed. I'm like, of course I do. So hold on a second. Go to Facebook. Hey, Andy, would you like to be in a Star Wars movie? what? There's a very good chance you might kill me. So, of course, that was, he signed up for that. Except the problem is I'm taller than him, so we couldn't do the death scene style from A New Hope where he picks up Antilles. We had to do the force choke. Oh wait, I shouldn't talk about that. Never mind. So it was me in an Imperial costume for a couple of days shoot. I had a blast, and I'm not an actor. It's really strange because I could remember all my lines as in the practice, but you put me in front of the camera and I forgot what I was even doing. And I wasn't nervous at all. I was totally fine. I just couldn't remember what I was supposed to say. And I'm pretty sure I made up my own lines half the time. But since these guys are all my friends, they were very patient with me. And everybody else that is in the film and has real roles, they are actors, and they do a fantastic job from what I saw. The film is supposed to come out sometime this quarter. He was going to do it January, but it seems like that's being pushed to probably March or so.
Okay, well, we'll have to be on the lookout for that.
Yes, it was, like I said, it was fun. I expect Hasbro to make an action figure of me in honor of this film when it comes out.
Captain Bernac with a blaster pistol and baton or something.
I am the captain of the Star Destroyer Avenger. That's important.
Very, very cool. Well, I mean, no matter whether it's toys or, Star Wars fan films, I mean, no matter how you go about it, you're still dealing with Star Wars. So it's got to be fun on some level, right?
It is. Like I said before, when I was a kid, I collected the comic books, I collected the trading cards, and I collected the action figures. I've been fortunate enough in my life to work alongside Hasbro on the action figure line as a consultant, I suppose. In the 30th anniversary, the Saga Legends line, and some other stuff along the way. And I'm an official top sketch card artist. I'm currently working on Solo, which is fun because the headline is super tight. We just got a trailer, so
yeah.
I'm not going to sleep until April, I think. So I'm able to still keep my fandom alive, and I'm much more relaxed these days, and I'm doing what I really enjoy, which isn't that what we all strive for?
Of course. Great story. Well, Dan, it has been a pleasure visiting with you here on Cantina Chatter. I'd like to thank you for all your contributions to Star Wars collecting over the years, and I hope to have you again on the show sometime.
Oh, anytime. This is fun.
Robo is co-owner of The Foosh, a collecting website and YouTube channel dedicated to reporting toy and collectible news across a diverse spectrum of franchises and brands. Robo, glad to have you with us today.
Oh, glad to be here. How are you?
Doing wonderful, thank you. So I want to ask you, what is your earliest toy or collecting memory?
Oh, that would probably be, well, not probably be, it was Star Wars figures. That's my first memory of, movie, commercials, toys. So yeah, it all began with Star Wars, but branched out from there because I watched way too much TV when I was a kid.
Oh, didn't we all?
Oh yeah.
Especially back then. I mean, the TV was just so good. I'm remembering late 80s, early 90s. I mean, you had the Disney Afternoon. You had, all these TV shows like the Real Ghostbusters. I mean, I'm just thinking of all the cartoons and stuff that I used to love.
Right. When it was late 70s, early 80s was, I had the G.I. Joe, I had the Transformers, I had the, of course, watching that much TV, I also watched the old, it was Three Stooges, it was Looney Tunes, it was everything. If it was on TV, I probably watched it.
Nice.
And it wasn't just cartoons and stuff either. It was Andy Griffith and everything else that was on at that point. So, but it was Star Wars and then slowly branched out into different things.
Certainly. Well, it's not like there was YouTube or anything back then to watch, so.
No, these kids these days got it all. I don't want to watch that. I'm going to watch one of millions of other things. No, when I was a kid, it was the 3 channels.
Totally. So, did you find that you enjoyed the toys because of the movies and the television shows, or was it actually the opposite, where you kind of got into the toys and then that prompted you to go into the movies and television shows?
It was mostly the movies and TVs got me into the toys, but then once I had the toys, it became kind of a build my own world type thing, where the Transformers became me riding in the car and everything else. But that's when I was a kid. It slowly changed too. The toys took prominence. A good toy will get me to go to watch a movie now. But yeah, it was definitely the cartoons, movies got me into it. And that's what I'm still collecting today. So, you know.
But yeah, for me as well, that was totally the case. I'd see like a television show or I'd see like a movie, and I guess mostly my family might have known that I liked it, and then from there they would just like gift me like the toys for like a birthday or Christmas or what have you. Even like back as a kid, it was just a bunch of toys. Because like I said, I mean there weren't tablets, there weren't a lot of like the game consoles and stuff. That was still kind of a new thing, and even the handheld stuff. Like, I mean, I think all that was around at the time was like the Game Boy.
Right. I feel like that way it would be more of an emotional attachment to the toy itself. I feel like if the toy brings you the other way around, it's a technical aspect to it. I don't know. Nothing bad. I'm not trying to say anything bad about that, but there's a nostalgia factor. There's like I said, emotional response to the toys. It's you holding something from something that you enjoyed. It seems to be the opposite now because I don't have as much time for all that, to see the movies and stuff first. So I don't know. It's weird thinking about childhood versus adulthood, how collecting changed. Collecting, it was playing, back then. So yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. And then you have Star Wars toys that come out like 4 months before the movie, so you kind of have to get the toys first.
And it's the same way with the Marvel movies. They kind of they try to get close, but most of the time it comes out a little bit before. So I'm not attached to it, but then I'll get the toys, but I won't. Okay, I can still see it coming around. I see the movie, and then I enjoy the toys a lot more because of the emotional response. So I don't know. Toys are toys.
Yeah, totally. And I kind of feel like anytime you watch a movie, something that you grow really invested in, or a television show, I mean, there's just something about owning a little piece of what you saw on screen to kind of look at. I mean, because obviously you can't watch the movie at any given time.
No,
but if you have the action figure on your desk or your shelf, I mean, you could always go to it and kind of think about it and play with it a little bit. So
exactly. And that's the way it was. I haven't watched Star Wars, at least the original trilogy. It's been a while. But looking at the toys and stuff, it's there. It's in the memory. I can bring back any scene because I've watched it so many times back then. But
right.
Yeah, and that's the way it still is. It's having that reminder. You're making me all emotional.
Oh no, trust me, I yeah. So anyone that has ever checked out the Foosh website or YouTube channel knows that you are into Marvel, you're into DC, you're into Star Wars, as you noted, and you also report and review on so many other things. And similarly, I'm very into different lines as well. So I'm curious, which is your favorite franchise and product brand to collect from?
Oh, it varies time to time. And I guess it's because of the toys that's coming out at that moment. When I was collecting the 3 3/4 Star Wars figures until the Marvel Legends came along. And then I was, all Marvel. And I went from there until DC came along and Marvel kind of fell off. And whoever's making the better toys at that moment. But right now, I can't get over the 6-inch Star Wars stuff. Although Marvel Legends is right there under it. Just very, very close. Because I'll get some Star Wars figures and then the next week Marvel will come along and, I don't need these Star Wars figures. They're in a box over to the side, shelf up the Marvel Legends. So it's not quite a tie. Star Wars still beats it out, but Marvel is right under it.
Nice. On my end, I've kind of also felt like Star Wars has always kind of been the bread and butter of my collection, so to speak. I mean, obviously I collect the Marvel Legends, or not all of them, but I tend to favor the ones from the movies. And, I'm into the DC stuff as well to an extent. And, a bunch of other miscellaneous stuff as well. But I've always felt in the same sense that, Star Wars has kind of always been like the main focus, even though, I do go off in a tangent sometimes and start getting pretty invested into other lines and other brands.
You're into a lot of the Jurassic Park stuff, though, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I love all the old Kenner stuff, definitely.
There's new stuff coming, isn't there? I can't keep track of what is coming. I mean, I've seen some like pictures of a big ass T-Rex.
Yeah, there's
is that going to be cool?
Yeah, there's Hasbro lost the license to Mattel, just like Mattel lost the license for their Disney princesses to Hasbro. And so, yeah, they're going to be producing stuff. I'm really hopeful that they're going to, in an official capacity, release some photos. Or, at Toy Fair coming up next month, that they're going to have some new stuff to look at. Because that would be really exciting.
Because I like the movies, but I've never gotten into the toys. I think it's more of I don't have the space or the money for this because imports and everything else. But what little I've seen, the leak stuff, it looks interesting. So I don't know. I may have to pick up some dinosaurs.
Yeah, I mean, I was always into dinosaurs. Going back to, just being a kid, in the late 80s, we had Imperial dinosaurs, were the mass-produced ones that you'd find like at Walmart. And they were inexpensive, so it wasn't hard to build a little collection of them. And my family also had a tradition of going to flea markets and, finding like dinosaur stuff. But when the Kenner Jurassic Park line hit, I mean, those toys totally blew out of the water any other dinosaurs I had ever seen, toys. So that's what got me really, and of course the movie, I love the movie, still do. But the toys were just absolutely amazing. And what Kenner did back then, I mean, Hasbro just didn't live up to. Even when they got Jurassic Park 3 back in 2001, it just wasn't ever the same. So that's kind of always looked back on by a lot of Jurassic collectors as, something that's like kind of untouchable.
Right. That holy grail of greatness that I'm still looking for. Is Mattel going to touch it? I mean, is Mattel going to get there?
Yeah,
because I'm kind of down on Mattel a lot, but if they would just put something out that's cool, I'd get it.
It's funny because Mattel can do an excellent job when they really want to. I mean, I just picked up, or I haven't even opened it yet, but I've had the 6-inch scale multiverse Batmobile from Justice League. I have that here and I haven't even opened it, but I mean, from what I've seen, it looks like an absolutely amazing toy for $60. So, I mean, I know they can do a good product when they want to. It's just whether or not they want to invest and actually do that, because obviously they haven't quite caught up with their DC figures.
Right, exactly. Sorry, I segued into, but I like learning about different stuff too. So, yeah, I'll be interested.
Yeah, definitely. So, what prompted you to join or to begin the Foosh?
Oh, that's a weird story. That's well, not weird. In internet land, it may be a little bit weird, but I was all over the 3 3/4 inch forums whenever I discovered the internet. Arkansas is usually a few years behind everything else, so I was on a bunch of those. And then I don't know when the 6-inch figures started coming along, the DC Direct stuff. And kind of the Spider-Man classics. I was together with Pabs and a couple of other guys on this customizing forum, and we were doing 6-inch customs. And Paul, just for the pure hell of it, decided to start his own 6-inch forum and invited me. I was member number 2 and a couple other guys, and it just kind of grew from there. And as it grew, he needed somebody to moderate the forums and kind of keep track of stuff. And I volunteered, and then it kind of just blow up is the wrong word. It's been going for 15 years, so it's been a slow growth, but it eventually got big enough to LLC it, and now we go to the shows and everything else. So it's really worked out for somebody that only wanted to talk about toys all day. So it works out great in that aspect, but it's also become a lot of work, all the background stuff. But I wouldn't trade it back from a regular job,
Sure, of course. I mean, you get to play with toys. I mean,
exactly, and talk about toys and shoot toys and toys, sell toys. I mean, we eventually even started, producing. Well, only the one line so far, but even producing toys, finding out how much work that is behind the scenes is insane. So I have a lot more respect for toy companies when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I actually used to work for a radio controlled car manufacturer, and it was one of the biggest ones in the industry here in the US. And I was doing technical support, like over the phone, and doing like in-house repairs when people would send stuff in. And yeah, we had difficult days, and there were times that were hard, drama, usual workplace stuff. But
Oh yeah.
it was always fun to remember at the end of the day we're dealing with like high-end toys that people enjoy and play with. So that always kind of
Exactly.
helped alleviate any of the stresses.
Oh yeah, and you can go home away from it and play with more toys.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't realize that the Fush had been going on for 15 years, you said?
Yeah, 2002, I think, is when the forum started. We've been chatting and talking and hanging out since 99, 2000, somewhere in there. So it's been a while. And the weird thing about it, a lot of the guys that still post on the forums and such are the same guys that, gravitated towards the site
Oh, wow.
that long ago. So it's crazy. It's cool. But it's, it's sometimes it's like family, I guess you could say. It's like, I don't want to talk to you today. And then the next day it's back to normal, but that's just how it goes 15 years later.
Sure. So that would have been about the time where the magazines were dying out, like Toy Fair and some of those other collectibles.
The internet. That's, again, I know some people that still have hard feelings over that, but I mean, evolution, I guess.
Sure.
It's not like we were trying to destroy it. And there's many a great site out there that's huge, way bigger than us. So yeah, but magazines were just too slow, They couldn't keep up.
Right. Maybe if they would have had like a corresponding type website or, something.
Exactly.
But like you said, they didn't evolve.
Yeah. And you went out of business and then, went on to do conventions and such.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
So in what other ways has collecting affected parts of your daily life?
Man, collecting is my daily life. Now that I think, yet sometimes I have to stop and think about it, that this is all I do, and sometimes I think it'd be nice to go to a job that I hate every now and then, just to have some kind of anger built up, to have that opposite joy whenever I get to the toys, because it's a daily grind now. And I say grind, but it's gotten me out of that too. It's gotten me out of that I hate my job phase of my life. But that's all due to collecting. I've been putting toys on shelves since 87, 86.
Oh, wow.
And then I stopped for a while. You graduate high school, other interests, that kind of thing. But I eventually came back to it rather quickly. But yeah, it went from something to do to something I have to do. Not have to do in the bad sense, you know what I mean? But
right.
I need to do it. So, and then that sounds kind of like a, I don't know, psychological problem, but I don't think so. If it makes me happy, then I'm kind of good with it. So.
Yeah, it just depends on your perspective.
Exactly. I mean, it could be detrimental, but it's not a 24-hour thing. It's just
Sure.
I can walk away from it. But
yeah.
Here I am defending myself. I am not a crazy person. So.
Well, I like to say everything in balance, everything in moderation. But, everybody's tolerance is a little bit different. So.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So, Robo, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
Do what you like. Do what you love. Collect what you want. Collect what you love. I don't know. It's a hard hobby to explain because some people like sports. Some people like monster trucks and some people like this or that. It's just another aspect, I hear people all the time, I get embarrassed when I take the toys up to the counter. It's like, no, man, revel in it.
Yeah. And, that's interesting you mentioned that because I was talking to Jay from Toy News Eye earlier. And one thing that he was talking about was, in the U.S., there's oftentimes a stigma that's associated with people that collect toys and, adults that go to the cash registers with toys. And he was talking about how in other countries that's not the case. And I mean, I could totally vouch for that because, as you know, I was in Japan last year. And
right.
I'd go to these toy stores and 95% of the people in these stores were adults. I mean, it was just like it wasn't any different from like going into a store and like buying a shirt or something. It was just like a thing
Right.
people do.
Well, they even label most of the, well, not most, but a lot of the toys are adult collectible now. So, I mean, I think because of the current movie, the comic movies, the comic TV shows, I'll even throw Big Bang in there just for, reference sake. A lot of people are coming around to seeing that as, acceptable, even though it's always been acceptable. It's just, the majority of people used to, you collect, well, it's like trying to explain to your family that you collect toys and then you have to explain, no, not kids' toys, no, not those kind of adult toys. It becomes a big, huge conversation that is getting easier as it goes. I mean, after all these years, my parents have finally, accepted the fact that it's action figures. It's not, a bad thing. So I don't know.
That's another thing I like to tell people. I could say, hey, I could be spending my money on booze or on, smoking or, all these other things. But hey, I mean, they're harmless. These are toys. I enjoy them. And yeah.
Yeah, I spent a lot of money on, and then got back into collecting. And yeah, it's the same amount of money, but I feel a lot better after quitting drinking and quitting smoking and quitting all that other stuff. So I spend all my money on toys now.
So buy what you like, boys and girls, and like what you buy, unless it's some Mayfix figure and it breaks on you out of the packaging.
Son of a...
Catwoman 1.0.
Oh, no kidding.
Well, Robo, I'd like to thank you for chatting with me today. I trust that anyone listening most likely already knows who you are and they know the Foosh. But if they don't, I highly encourage them to visit one of the top places on the internet for the latest and greatest toy news out there.
We try to be, anyway. I appreciate coming on. You letting me come on, so that's cool.
That'll do it for episode 19 of Cantina Chatter. Once again, I'd like to thank my guests, Samantha, aka Raptor Queen, Clark Tanaka, aka Super Collector Clark, Dan Kurtal, and Robo from the Foosh. Be sure to visit them online. All of them are passionate fans and collectors who put a lot of hard work into their websites and channels so that we may all enjoy and benefit from them. I will place some links in the show notes. As always, please be sure to subscribe to Victoria's Cantina and the Cantina Chatter podcast wherever podcasts are available. Of course, if you enjoyed the show, giving Cantina Chatter positive and 5-star reviews is always helpful in increasing our rankings. Please be sure to follow Victoria's Cantina on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you for tuning in to the Cantina Chatter podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.